right, today I am joined by Elsie Coe. Elsie is an interventional radiologist and founder of Lead Physician. She's quite accomplished, so we're going to let her tell her story and background as we go along in this interview. So Elsie, thank you for being here today, and it's a pleasure to talk with you again.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you for interviewing me. I've had some people ask me, "Can you interview yourself and put yourself
Yeah,
on your own website and group and Facebook?"
yep.
So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. And then for everybody who's watching, I'm down here on the Outer Banks. So I've got a beach behind me. So hard to find good lighting. This beach house is just all windows. So hopefully the lighting will come out really good. But Elsie, you are quite accomplished. And I think you went to med school when only 1% of women were accepted into that program. Is that correct?
Not so much accepted, but 1% of women just were. That was the prevalence of women in interventional radiology at the time. So that
Yeah.
was way back when.
Yeah.
Older
Yeah.
than you
Awesome.
think.
Well, tell us your story a little bit, and you know how you came up, and ended up where you are today, and got into the lead physician venture.
Right. So I started Lead Physician actually during COVID, although I've been coaching and mentoring physicians for a number of years because of my own story. I'm a type of person who didn't grow up in the background, I mean, within and in my environment of thinking myself as a leader. I didn't even think that I was holding myself back. And I didn't have the confidence when I saw other people leading. I was in awe of them, but I never thought that I could be that leader. And I just discounted it completely, in fact. So when opportunities came my way because of my skill set in medicine to lead, I was completely taken out of my comfort zone, and I felt very, very awkward, and I actually failed at it. That's how it started.
Well, so it's
So
interesting. So you had all of this medical professional training preparing you for a career, but you had no leadership training, right?
that's right. The only leadership training I had was just watching other people and how they led, and how I was brought up in my own hometown in West Virginia, and how I saw other people do things. And the way the mentors that I saw basically gave orders, were scary, and were not allowed to speak. I remember my OB rotation where it was complete silence except the doctor who spoke, and he would proceed to yell at the residents and interns. And I was a medical student at the time. So I that's the only leadership that I knew.
Yeah, leadership through fear and intimidation.
Right.
Yeah. So, what inspired you to create Lead Physician? So, well, I guess before we get to that, so you've had quite a career. You went to medical school, you did your residency, you got out. So, tell us a little bit about your career journey to this point, where the inspiration for Lead Physician came along.
Right. So, like I said, I was started being offered leadership positions because being a medical director of a surgical center, and totally taken out of my element because suddenly I have staff that I'm supposed to lead. But instead of leading them, I said, okay, well, they need to do their job and I'll do my job and I'll just do, whatever. And then I would just tell them what to do. And if they didn't do what I did, I said, well, I'm the doctor and you're the nurse, the staff, and you need to listen to me. I'm the one who's calling the shots here, so that's the and then I
So
got
that's
by.
so
I
that's
got by.
interesting.
Yeah,
So that's interesting. So you never thought of yourself as a leader,
yeah.
didn't know really what that was about, but yet you were put in a leadership position as medical director. So how did that happen?
So it's funny. I think people who are not, first of all, I think people who are not in medicine look at doctors as leaders and then they put them there and they realize that they suck as leaders because we're experts in our field. I was very skilled in my hand-eye coordination and the things that I could do. I mean, I can brag about that, but I really just the reason why I know I failed is because I was told by my center manager at one point that I made each and every employee cry at one time in their time with me in a Christmas party, and I didn't believe it at first. I thought it was a joke, because, after all, we're having drinks, we're having fun, it's Christmas, and we're on a party bus, but nobody was laughing in the bus. And I was devastated. I was like, what the it was one of those moments where you stop and think like, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me,
So you find yourself as a medical director just all of a sudden, and you have no clue how to handle people, how to deal with people, how to lead, delegate, motivate, inspire people. You just know how to get things done, right? So I
Right.
interrupted you there in a thought. So
That's
take us
okay.
from that point.
No, so yeah, then so after that, after these turning points, I had these like many little turning points, but that was a big one. I realized that I needed to change. And so I started picking up a book. I started asking people. I started noticing more of who I wanted to be like on media, on um, at conferences, at whatever venue I could see. So any networking event, I started asking, and how do I keep my employees? Because my employee turnover rate was not good. How do I get people to like me? How do I communicate in the right way? I didn't know any of those things. And so when I started doing that, it's like suddenly my life started to change. People started to stay with me. I started empowering my staff to dream bigger, to look for more things, to be more than realize that they have more potential than people have been telling them maybe. And then I had the only turnover I really had were people who got promoted. So at the end of I recently moved out of that organization. I was there for 14 years. But at the end, when I left that organization, I had employees who really made a difference, who really worked up and beyond their call of duty. There was no job description. A nurse could help the front desk. The front desk can help the scrub tech. The scrub tech, if the nurse needs help, will help them in the pre and post-op area. It was a completely different office. And the friend of mine who took over my office said, Elsie, your office is like being in heaven. And I said, what? And he said, when I ask for something, it's done right away. And I'm not used to that. Like, this is what you created. So when and then the more I moved up the rank in leadership in that organization, because I was starting to be recognized and I started believing myself, right? That's huge. It's not only believing yourself, but developing these skills. I was able to mentor and champion other physicians. And I noticed when I would vet other physicians and I would interview them for jobs, and I would ask them, when I interviewed them, I could tell that there was a problem with their self-image. And the reason why some physicians fail and some physicians do great is not because of what they're doing and not their skill set per se, right? It's how they do those certain things. How do they interact? Is these very intangible skills that are leadership skills.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I bet when you exited the organization, there were tears again, but maybe for other reasons.
Yeah. I had tears.
I'm sure you made a few other people cry as well, but not the same way you did the first time.
No, thank you, Greg. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you mentioned an interesting word and concept. So you said belief and skill set. So what needs to come first for anybody? Is it the belief or is it the skills?
I think the belief has to come first.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think when people view empowerment differently, I realize there was this long Facebook chat conversation going on in one of the Facebook groups that I belong to about what empowerment is. And we can all perceive empowerment differently based on the way we've been brought up and the way our cultural background, our genetics, whatever, our experiences. But to me, empowerment, because of my own path, and I think shared by many other physicians, is aligning your personality. And I think Oprah Hurt said this once, aligning your personality to who you are as a soul. is aligning, understanding that your soul has an infinite potential beyond what anyone ever probably told you or that you even realized, and that you need to align your personality to your infinite capabilities. And how do you do that? Uh, it's it's a lot. There's skills that you can. There are actually tools to do that, and I learned that from my big mentors out there, and passed down from generations to generations to Napoleon Hill. And these concepts have been, and when you can tell who's been studying, who's been reading, who's been coached based on how they talk, because they understand these skills so well. And I bet you know those, Craig, because when
Oh
I
yeah.
talk to you, I hear it.
Yeah, well, so there are natural born leaders as what, that are just like, I was a natural born leader. So everything I ever did, I was the captain of the team. I was always chosen as the captain or the leader or whatever, pretty much anywhere I was. And I never questioned it, or it's just the way it was, and if there was something that needed to be done, I was the first one to volunteer. I would lead the charge, whatever it is. And then as I, grew up, I realized that, a lot of that came from my dad. He was a leader. He was in the military and he was an officer and, led men. So I grew up with that example, and I just became a natural leader in that regard. But I was trained by him without even knowing it, just the skill set of just life, of being trained as a leader. We make things happen, we get things done. You just do it. You just lead, you just go. You don't ask how are we going to, you just go and you lead the team. Hey, we're going to go do this. And, but to refine that skill set and to get results out of others, which is what leadership is. Leadership is the inspiration, is inspiring results out of others. It's accomplishing things through others, not as a manager, but as a leader. So it's a very
helping them to
different.
see things in themselves that they didn't see before.
Right.
To help them realize, and this is where I wish somebody helped me, and I wish I were a natural born leader like you, because I wasn't. But to see something in them that they didn't realize before that they have right now.
And that's what I was getting at. So
and
even though
to
there are
help others
natural
to
born
become.
leaders, a lot of people will look at that and say, well, are entrepreneurs born, are leaders born, are great business people born? And, it's like you said, it's skills, and there's tools out there and resources that you can develop for that skill set. And I bet you Napoleon Hill's a great one, Think and Grow Rich, obviously. But one of the other books out there, and I'm sure you've read it, is, one of the best books ever is How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
so communication.
Carnegie's nephew, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So communication is huge. And, some of the greatest leaders of our time have been some of the greatest communicators of our time.
Right. So Bob Proctor actually is one of my mentors. I believe he's 87 years old now, and he functions like somebody 20 years younger. I mean, you can't even keep up with him in the hallway, and he's already planning his 100th birthday party, which is amazing. But I actually joined the PGI Institute as a coach. That's where I got certified. And what he's learned from Earl Nightingale, and Earl Nightingale was mentored by Napoleon Hill, and Napoleon Hill was mentored by Andrew Carnegie. And what I found out not that long ago was that Andrew Carnegie was mentored by someone named Elsie Benedict. So these success concepts are not my own. When I teach them, they are concepts that have been brought down generation to generation. And the bottom line is that what you put your attention to, what your thoughts are, really dictate your future and your results. So if you don't like your results, there's something that there needs to be a shift within, a paradigm shift that starts you going in the right direction, with the expectation of knowing that you have this potential. It's a paradigm shift. He actually has a program called the Paradigm Shift that starts, I think there's another one that starts in March. Usually it's in person. It is a phenomenal event. I think it's like a 3-day event, and you could watch it from your own home in a camera, but when you go there in person, it's life-changing. So if you're even interested in these concepts, I highly recommend you attend that. I could send anyone the link if you're interested.
Yeah, great. So your journey, from the time you were put in that position, you had that in your face moment where you realized what kind of a leader or lack thereof that you were, and how your people felt about you. you transformed yourself, flipped that all around to where you were probably the most beloved leader that they had ever had the opportunity to be with and work for and to work with, to the exit to today of lead physician. So tell us a little bit about the inspiration of lead physician, what that's all about in that transition.
So lead physician basically is it's not for everybody, but it's for people who realize that they need some change because they don't like their results. They feel stuck. They wish somebody could tell them how to change their results. They're not confident in stretching themselves beyond where they have been. They can't imagine doing more than they are. They kind of feel stuck. So those are the people who I think I work best with because I really understand what it's like to be there. And when you want to grow your leadership potential, it starts from within, and we're going to work on that. But we do work on logistical skills too, on how to communicate, how to negotiate, what are the things to do, what are the skill sets, how do you lead with values, what are your core values, and how do you do process improvement? Those are really important too. But we start within, and it is a 4-month course. And I've developed these videos that really come from some of my big mentors, Mary Morrissey also, and Bob Proctor. And I put it into videos that are in physician language, so they would understand it more, and real with stories to go with it. And I developed, I think, 25 videos that they can watch along with the live courses with expert physicians and people like you, Greg, who really inspire and give insight into something that they might not have seen before. Because a business coach like you will help physicians to think, because we don't think in that way. How do you grow your wealth? How do for me, all of these concepts not only changed my career, but it changed how I deal with my money, how I invest, how I realize that there are smart, risky investments to do to really make a difference in how you live and how you can help others. And my relationship with my family and being able to help my kids during COVID when they were so depressed, and making them think that they are more than the circumstances around them, and to be able to find hobbies. Like my son during summer, he found fishing and he just absolutely loved it. That he just went off with it. My daughter started a fashion business, and you should see our garage. We opened up one of the second garages for her, and she created a whole teenage streetwear line called Radar Missing in Action, or MIA or something, Radar 1 MIA. And and we just recently bought 100 sweatpants from Peru for her to design because she sold out on her 2 lines. And just giving that to somebody to plant that seed in someone's mind, not just your child, but your peers, your colleagues, that they are more than what they think. And it's life changing. And I see what Bob Proctor does. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So where did the inspiration in this time come from to create Lead Physician? Because you didn't have that before. You'd gone through the program, you had Bob Proctor, and then all of a sudden you just, I'm going to do this thing. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so I used Bob Proctor's material to coach healthcare professionals. It wasn't just physicians; it was healthcare executive people and IT people and pharmacy people in different realms of healthcare. But what I noticed is that I really wanted to tailor the material to our healthcare environment. And I wanted to put it in language that makes it even more understandable without having me to reiterate it over a camera live. So I said, you know what, I want to create my own. And that's where Lead Physician came in.
Right, but why? So the question is why? Yeah, you could do anything. You are accomplished. You could be investing in real estate. You can be doing anything you want to do anywhere in the world at your level, with your background, your pedigree, anything. But you're like, I'm going to do this. So tell us why you want to do this.
It gives me such satisfaction and to help other people in this way. And I'm seeing, clients of mine, get out of the dumps. Somebody who felt stuck has now realized that there's more to her life than what she had, and now she's building a business where she's helping people in the entire state, including rural areas, with her business, and have a whole platform for telemedicine with insurances now on board to create things. We are so creative. Physicians, I feel like, have so much more potential than anyone's giving credit to. We see the burnout rate of 40 to 50%. I'm tired of hearing about the burnout rate. I'm tired of hearing about, that the administrators are taking away from the physicians, and we see that during COVID, and how we are treated when we need to step up as leaders in the healthcare field. We know what's going on on the bottom, the ground up. We understand where the changes need to be made, and there's frustration because there's a disconnect between what clinically needs to be done with the people who are controlling the healthcare environment, which are the non-clinical people often. And there's a lot of unhappy people. Disruption is not happening the way we want it to. It's actually hurting people. The healthcare costs are astronomical and the highest in the entire world. And yet, we don't have the highest scoring on healthcare quality. Although, in certain areas, yes, in metropolitan areas there are, but like across the country, if we look at the quality of the care that's being delivered, it's not number one in the out of the 11 OEC countries. We're the bottom. Our infant mortality rate is the worst out of that. So if you think critically about why are we failing, and I think one of the main problems is that physicians need to be equipped with leadership skills where they not only believe that they can do it, but they know how to lead people, how to engage, how to communicate and influence people so that we can have change in a way that really matters that helps the workforce, like ourselves, and the nurses and the ancillary staff, so that the workforce is better, we're treating patients better, and we're saving money better, and so everybody wins. So I think we need to empower. Some people don't like that word, but we really need to equip our physicians.
Well, no, empower is a great word, because for medical professionals, for people that are watching this, like you said, physicians, doctors, medical professionals are, number one, they're smart, right? You've got to get through the program. They are creative thinking, because you're problem solvers, you're diagnosticians, you're problem solvers. It's a creative process. And a lot of times what people don't understand is themselves first. And as a creative, you are different, you think different, you act different, you process, you engage with people differently. So understanding that, they're entrepreneurial. Medicine, healthcare, it's entrepreneurial in terms of what you're doing. And it's a skill set that you're trained for throughout your academic career and your professional career. And these other things are skill sets that can be developed as well. They're just not taught. And it's a lot of professions. They don't teach leadership, time management, and you don't manage time, you manage activity. Time management is a fallacy. It's actually an activity management system is what you really need, a task management system, not a time management system. So they don't teach leadership, delegation, motivation. They don't teach business, entrepreneurship, and wealth generation, wealth creation, wealth generation, how to grow your wealth. So these are all skill sets that can be learned. And that's what I find when I work with physicians in terms of helping them grow their wealth, grow their businesses, get into other entrepreneurial pursuits, is that they're very smart, very creative, very entrepreneurial. They just don't know how to bring a lot of these things out of themselves. But you know what, for anybody listening, and for what, Elise is going to explain in just a minute about how the program works, is it's a learned thing. Just like you learned in school what you're doing now, you can learn these things as well to do them in the future, right?
Right. We definitely don't learn business skills. And that's why when we come out and people look at us and they assume we know what margins mean, and we don't know what EBITDA means. We don't. And we should know those basic things so that we do step up and say, hey, I do want to be involved in that. I do want to, instead of shy away, because then suddenly we're not the experts in that field, and we don't want people to know that we don't know. So one of the
Right. And
things
you
I'm
need,
also, yeah, one of the things I'm
yeah, go
also
ahead. We had a little
interested
delay
in
there.
is helping to reshape medical schools, medical students' education, as well as residents, before they go into the workforce. Before, like if they're equipped earlier on, it's going to make a huge impact, I think, in our healthcare. So that's, I'm currently working with a couple of people who are interested in doing that. And one of them has gone to the AMA and asked them and say, we need to start putting some leadership and business skills as a requirement in the medical training. So I'm very interested in that too.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we are just about at the end of our time here, and this has been a fantastic conversation, and it's just been such a pleasure to get to know you and follow what you're doing. So where can people find you? I know this will be on your channel. I'm going to put this on my YouTube channel as well. So for my listeners and viewers, where can they?
Right. So first of all, if you're a physician, join the Facebook group called Lead Physician, because there's a lot of video content. There's a lot of announcements. There's a lot of the live videos that we do are posted on there for you to see. The other place is that you can go to leadphysician.org, which is our website, to learn more about the course if you're interested in doing that. And you can also email me at info@drelsieco.com, and I'd be happy to have a talk with you about what you're looking for and see if it's fit. We also work with organizations and individuals, and we have a number of physician experts as well as Greg here to help you with your journey. So thank you so much, Greg. And to also let everyone know that you, Greg, I'm so grateful to have you as part of the team. Although not a physician, and almost everyone else is a physician on my team, but I just thought it was because of your background and what you've done and grown biggest businesses, and just changing our whole mindset about that and having trust in the way we use our money, because there's been a lot of mistrust, distrust, and just in the whole system and how people treat us because we have money and people want to use our money. I think that's like been the what do you call it, social stigma of what physicians have been going through. So there's a lot of
Yeah, which can be an asset, which can be also a liability and make you a target. So one last thing before we leave, and thinking about your journey from start to where you are now, and for people watching and listening to this, what is one or two things that you can look back on that made the most difference in your life and your career from where you came from to where you are now?
the two things that I think are really impactful, I would say, is number one is just understanding that I have infinite potential. We all, as spiritual beings having human experience, have infinite potential in what we can do. And just being able to stretch our thoughts, our minds, using our creative minds, imagination, to first think about it in our minds before it becomes a physical reality. Everything was created twice. So if you picture it in your mind, you believe, you have faith, and you expect, and you take action on that, watch things unfold. And that's what I kept proving over and over when I learned to think in that way. When you start thinking in this way, some people say magic happens, but really it's just you creating the opportunities that you actually are already aligned with. And this sounds morbid, but I, I guess at 51, I'm realizing my mortality more, which makes everything more real than before. Like my relationships with people, how I want to help and make a difference, my purpose here before it's up, and not having regrets and not doing something that I wanted to do. So being really authentically myself and being able to live out my purpose.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Elsie, thank you for taking a few minutes out today and telling people about you and what you're doing. And it's just, like I said, it's been wonderful getting to know you, and I'm looking forward to a long and prosperous future together.
Thank you so much, I appreciate it. Same here.